Okay, can you hear that?
Yes, perfect.
I'm sorry, there's a double mute here in Zoom. Good. So we're going to get started. We have several people join us, and we're going to go ahead and roll anyway. I looked at your poll results, and this is what I expected. We all have a lot of Excel experience, and Power BI is kind of new to us. And Power BI is the ultimate business intelligence client, and it is the absolute going forward standard. So the more you put into Power BI, the better off you'll be, not just with interfacing with Excel, but in other web applications. By the way, there's two pieces to Power BI. There's a desktop version and there is a cloud version. We'll take a look at both of those and see how they work together. If you have any questions, put questions in chat with your email address, and I will research whatever we need to do and send it to you. My name is Gary Mitchell, and you see in the middle of the screen my email address. Please write that down now. Gmitchell, two L's, at directionstraining.com. I'll leave that on the screen for a minute. Gmitchell, two L's, directionstrainingplural.com. And let me hear from you if you have any needs or desires to get more into business intelligence, BI, which is our future. Okay, we're going to have a few slides here in a quick delivery. Then I'm going to show you how this all works, and I've got some handouts that I want to make available to you. The way Zoom works, and I have found this out by accident, if I put something into a share, it's only good for people who are logged in and who logged in later. So if people come in late and after that has been shared, it doesn't show up. So I'm going to do it at the very best time. But again, I've got to, if you need downloading from the cloud, I'll give you a URL for that. So you heard Shannon talk about 750 students, 750,000 students trained in 70 different countries. We've been in business for 25 years. We have done lots and lots, and we've kind of been forerunners in Power BI and business intelligence itself. So all along, business power users have been using Excel. Go-to reporting tool. There is a tremendous functionality in Excel for reporting. People say, oh, well, Excel, why pay any attention to it? It's going to be just gone. We'll get rid of it and use Power BI. And that's not true. They work together. So Power BI is not going to take over Excel. They'll work together. But the reporting experience in Power BI is much better than the reporting experience in Excel. What you're going to find is there's nothing new here. There's just a different way to do things that you've done before. The highlight says it's a more high functioning tool. You will see and feel some similarities between the two tools, but here is a major difference. Whenever you use Excel, when you use Power BI Desktop, we're working on your system locally, and that makes it not easy to share information with others. There's a concept we'll learn, ETL, extract, transform, and load, where we build data models. And when we have a completed data model, we'll turn it over to end users for self-service analysis. So Power BI has that higher level of analysis, but it also, a version of Power BI, allows you to place resources in the cloud and share them securely with users in your environment. So that sharing piece is huge, huge. Again, it's a second level, a second subscription level of Power BI, and we'll see what that means in just a minute. ETL is a big acronym in this industry: extract, transform, and load. Power Query is the engine under Excel and Power BI that enables us to do this. And I want you to understand this, how important this is. 75% of a budget in a business intelligence implementation is for E, go find a bunch of data and extract it from a data store. T, transform that data, deduplicate it, get rid of nulls, remove errors, empty fields. T, transform. And finally, L, load the data into a data model. Data models are very, very important concepts. I may want to do some sophisticated analysis, and the data store underneath that analysis is Excel. No problem. Oh, yeah. Well, I also need some text information. I need some Oracle data and some SQL Server data, Microsoft SQL Server. So I've got 4 different file types here, all contributing to one data model. So the data model itself is incredibly important, 75% of your budget. The Power Query engine is what makes Power BI able to enable you to ETL. So Power BI is going to work hand in hand with Excel. At this point, I'm going to make Excel a generic object, a data store. I don't know what all it can do. All I know is it's got data in it. In order for Power BI to recognize data in a data store, the data has to be in the tabular mode. If you have put your cursor into a range in Excel and did Control T, turn this selection into a table. That's how Power BI recognizes data tables in Excel. So you'll at some point say, open up that Excel document, let me get that table. No such thing. There's no tables in there. And that's because you haven't converted the range to a table. So in this picture going forward, I'm going to put a bunch of data in Excel, and there could be other things along with Excel, and I'm going to use them to support my operations in Power BI. Power BI being a business intelligence client that connects to one or more data sources, data stores. Well, you've got a lot of skills. A lot of you have been doing the kind of things I've been discussing with Excel, and it'll still work that way. But we want to move on. We want to get in touch with newer technologies. This will benefit you not just in your Excel operations, but in a lot of different new technologies that are being developed. Create interactive, that's important. Dashboards, that's important. One of the things we're going to see is when we start a project, so to speak, in Power BI, we go get data. This is calling the Power Query engine. Okay, where do you want to get it? Here's a list of connectors, different places I could connect to. That's got the connection string, the passwords, the security, everything in it. So I'm going to go get a bunch of data, and I'm going to build a report. A report is a multi-page document with visualizations, which you'll come to realize as charts, and graphs. When you've built out your reports, they're local to your system, they're in your hard drive. At some point, you're going to push those reports out into the cloud. Once you've done that, then there's a whole new world of availability. And we're going to have a little handout for DAX. When you start building your reports, and reports are multi-page documents, you may need to do more than just drag and drop GUI operations. You may need to do a little bit of scripting. You're familiar with scripting in Excel functions, I'm sure. And this takes that to a higher level with a scripting language called data analysis expressions. And there are incredibly intricate operations underneath Power BI and DAX, data analysis expressions. At the end of the day, I'm going to put into chat a share of a DAX document that'll help you get started with it. One of the things that happens is when you create things with the visual interface, some crazy kind of language called M is run to do the actual work. So that's a new skill that we may want to manage is M. That is a huge learning curve. You use M by using the user interface, the GUI in Power BI, but Power BI calls on the M language. R, the open community, Python, you're going to have an opportunity to master multiple new operations, but I want you to realize that this is a new look at something you've done before. It's not that you have to tear your hair out learning a bunch of programming. This is still the graphical user interface that is writing the scripts. You'll have the opportunity to open those scripts up and manage them. So this is a no-brainer, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Why Excel? Why is it so popular? What has it done in the past? And there's the list of the attributes. Excel is now part of the Microsoft 365 family. One of the things that is strange to me is Office now is how you get your applications. We don't download them and install them on the hard drive like we used to. And you'll have an Office 365 administrator that will give you the permissions you need, the subscriptions you need in order to do your work. Okay, you may be familiar with the Power Pivot add-in. That is a previous incarnation of Power Query. That's how we did the kinds of operations we do now with Power Query. Couple of buzzwords: tabular data models, two-dimensional databases. Tabular, two-dimensional, rows and columns. Think of an Excel spreadsheet. Think of a SQL Server table. 2 dimensions, rows and columns. Can run in memory. So I can take an entire record set and put it into RAM and run operations on that record set at RAM speed. That's how we can handle 50,000 rows of data in Excel in Power BI. There's in the second sentence another important concept called direct query. Whenever I make a connection to a data store, I have a couple of options. Do you want to get all those 200,000 records and read them into the data model, make them local here? Or do you want to leave those records where they are and access them with direct query? If we access them with direct query, then if changes were made in the underlying data store, we'll have the latest version and we won't incur the overhead of copying 200,000 rows over and over and over again. So there's a lot of hoodoo that's going on, compression algorithms, multi-threaded query processing if you have lots of uh, core CPUs, analysis services, Vertipack engine. So there's a lot of technology that you have probably used before, you didn't realize it. So we want to start off building a Power BI model. Again, a model can be comprised of different data types. We could get some data from Excel, some from a SQL server, some from Oracle into one collection, one model, and share that model with end users for end user access. Then they can use the skills they have in reporting against the model that you have created. I also see an important buzzword, actionable insights. What Microsoft is all about is making apparent to us uh, actionable insights. Whenever we query large models, we may say, oh, so that's why we're here at this point in time. That's why our sales, our returns are so much. How could we improve that? An actionable insight. I may say, well, I'm limiting my sales by putting only large quantities and not small single user sources. So the first step in data modeling is on the right hand side of the screen. This looks familiar to you if you've done models in Excel. Get data, get data, get data. I want to make a connection to a data store and get as much information as I can. Pick a type, files, databases. There are probably 60 different connectors and more connectors created daily. So we could keep our data in SharePoint, in SQL Server, in Access. We can pull information from multiple different sources into one data model, clean it up, and share it. There are two kinds, well, there's at least two kinds for now of Power BI. There's a Power BI desktop and there is a Power BI cloud service. If you want to share your information with business users, people, or customers, clients, then you would enable Power BI service that is a higher level subscription than the free desktop version. And when you've done that, you can create things like dashboards, reports into dashboards. So this is the place where I can put my visualizations in the cloud to share them with others. I can share them not only by visualizing them, but I may enable them to edit those resources also. So in the cloud, here's the full process. Get data, go to a data store and bring in lots and lots of data. E, that's extract. T, transform data. Deduplicate it, remove errors and nulls. Then load it into a data model. Once we've ETL'd, we create multi-page, and I want to repeat that, multi-page reports. Reports have tiles, and inside the tiles are different charts you may be familiar with from Excel, but much richer graphical opportunities. Once I've got a report or reports, this is a multi-page document. It's just here on my computer and nobody can see it. What I need to do then is publish my report or reports to the cloud service. So once you have some reports you want to share with the world, you just click a button and say, publish this. When you publish, it's going to say, where do you want to put this? Here's a workspace I've created just for the shipping department. Here's a workspace I created for the engineering department. Okay. So now I know which department, where in the cloud to put this service. Then, third from the bottom, create single page dashboards. Where reports are multi-page documents, a dashboard is a single page. And you can think of it as an executive dashboard where end users can go and not be overwhelmed by pages and pages and pages of information, but focused delivery of the important parts by pinning different visualizations into a dashboard. There is a concept of key performance indicators, and you may or may not be familiar with it, but I may set up a script that says if car sales are 100 a month, turn this stoplight red, traffic light red. If it's 125, turn it yellow, and if it's 150, turn it green. Key performance indicators. What's the goal? Where are we at this point in time? Visualize that for me in a graphic. Once I have published my reports into the cloud, then I will enable those reports to be viewed, enable dashboards to be viewed by permissioning individual elements. And I may say, I'm going to give Gary permissions to read this particular information, but not change it. So there's a huge amount of security involved in this. Whenever you first get started with Power BI, you would download Power BI Desktop, free version. And just because it's free doesn't mean it's not a powerful piece. It's the basic underlying tools that you'll use. It's free. You'll download it. Once you've done your work locally, we need to share this with somebody in the outside world. Collaboration is the key here. I want to make this available to somebody other than myself. The next level of Power BI subscription is Power BI Professional. This is not free. It is $9.95 a month in order to have a professional subscription. When you do have a professional subscription, you can then not only share information, but you can see information that other people have made for you. You're going to find that this is part of your Office 365 login, but you can't get in the cloud, so to speak, without a Power BI Pro license. The third instance is Power BI Premium. This is very expensive, $5,000 a month. And there's dedicated resources in Microsoft's data centers. You have your own BI services, and it's much more sophisticated. If you know what SQL Server Reporting Services is, that's part of this operation. So we're kind of going backwards in a sense. Okay, what's so good about Power BI? I was limping along, I didn't realize it, with Excel and getting everything done. Why would I want to think about Power BI? Large data storage. Power BI connects up to data stores to get data and then saves it into storage accounts. Huge amounts of data, 10 gigabytes of data, for example. Email alerts to track metrics. We can say if this drive is getting full, if these sales errors have reached a critical level, then stop, email me an alert and say, I've got too many drop packets here. Power BI gives us a quick view of key performance indicators in one place. That is the dashboard. That is the executive dashboard. And more sophisticated visualizations than you have normally. Okay. Power BI can't mix imported data from real-time connections. There's an important concept of real-time. Do I want to go get data that is current, or as records change on the underlying data store, I could be out of date? If I have a real-time connection, then whenever I make a query, it goes and gets the latest version. Much larger selection of visualizations. You love to make charts and graphs in Excel, and that experience is taken to a much higher level in Power BI. Power BI has a limit of about 50 million records. And because it compresses those records and puts them into RAM, that's how these operations can be run in a amount of time that you could live with. When you've got your report in Excel done, you can share it, store it on SharePoint. If you have SharePoint shares, putting things in the cloud is the key. Getting the pro version is the key. Okay. This is an important concept that I think sometimes we take for granted. We are effectively becoming web developers, but we're using a graphical user interface. For a web developer to make a presentation that looks good on a full computer screen and is enabled for smartphone screens, table screens, that's a lot of work. In Power BI, we just say, I want to make this configured for mobile devices, and your end users can then query your data stores with their cell phone. We've talked about dashboards. I'm just going to repeat, dashboards are a single page document that have rolled up values. 1 gigabyte limit per data set in Power BI. You can have up to 10 workspaces with 1 gigabyte each. So the fact is, you're not going to be stretching your limits. You've got lots and lots of room. One of the things that's going to be confusing a little bit, and I like to touch on it here when we talk about data sets, and that's a concept of blob storage, binary large objects. When we start working with huge amounts of data like this, sometimes we could have some issues. I want to put this thing into a database. What is the thing? Well, it's a MP4 video. In a database, yes. Deserialize it, turn the MP4 into zeros and ones, and store the zeros and ones in the database as a blob, binary large object. Then when we want to see that MP4 again, we reconstitute it. We bring it back from zeros and ones to an MP4 file. So data is going to be a huge consideration and probably dealt with better up front, getting in touch with how much data you're going to need to work with constantly and arrange data storage for that. Automate data refreshes. At this point, we've connected to a back end, a data store with information in it. I want to keep this up to date. I can schedule a refresh and say, go get the latest changes in that data store every day at 7:30 a.m. I could at any time say manually update that data, but it's nice to automate it so you'll know that you'll always have, as of the last, excuse me, I had a little glitch here. Okay, we can manually refresh at any time or automatically set up a schedule, and then we'll know that when the end users look at their data, they'll have the latest version available to them. I want to lay on this concept of self-service. One of the things that we don't want to be in charge of is doing all the reporting for everybody in the company. So we're going to build this data model and share it with users, and they're going to do their own analysis on that data. And again, this is controlled with permissions that we allow people to have. This top of this says data models with Q&A. If you have non-technical users who don't want to learn in-depth technology early on, you can type in a question: who was top salesperson in Chicago in January? That would be turned into a Power Query and pass into the engine. So for people who are just beginning, we can allow them to query our data stores, the representation thereof. There's also a quick insights level that will look at your data and say, did you realize this? Did you know this? I've put some artificial intelligence to work on your data and I found this. What do you think about it? Should we make some changes here? If you are an open technology person, if you use R, if you use Python scripting, Microsoft has taken the quickly developing technologies by other organizations and put a Microsoft face on them. So even though you may not do Linux, Unix operations natively, you can use the Microsoft interface, and there are visualizations for Python and for R. So that's only interest to open users. There are three different views on the left hand side of this picture. I see three bars going up and down. That is a report view. There is another icon beneath that, which is the data view. We are going to say, okay, there's a lot of functionality, a lot of graphic information, but there's not just the perfect visualization for me. So I'm going to look into the app source and say, I've been seeing a bullet chart in the pane of different visualizations. Add that to my palette, so to speak. Word cloud, haven't seen that in a while. You could also have your own developers in your own company create custom visualizations just for your company and share them internally. So to go beyond the out of the box visualizations, AppSource and my organization. The data view, which is the second icon on the left of the screen, looks like a little table, is how we do the transformation. We've got a report view, a transformation view, and a view we haven't seen yet in just a minute. But one central place to work, 3 different ways to see what we're working with. Data view for transformations, the T and ETL. The third view that you have available at any time is a model view. This is the data model as I'm building it. There are 3 tables in the model, and I noticed that they are joined together. These may be separate data stores. This may be a SQL database and an Excel table and an Oracle database. But if I have join joinable columns available, I can join these together. Whenever you have finished your model, you'll save it and share it with others. There is a discussion of join cardinality. There is a line coming out from each of those tables that says this is a one to many join. This is a one to many join. Just like you create joins in your database products, you can have one to many, many to one. You can even have many to many relationships, which are not supported in the database itself. Another thing that we are going to be interested in is Microsoft Power Platform. This is developing as we speak. This is hot stuff. This is Microsoft started off with the marketing phrase no code. That didn't fly. So now this is sold as low code, no code. If you want to be a developer and you don't want to spend all the time building those skill sets, you can use a graphical user interface to build applications, Windows applications that run on your cell phone, for example. That a large portion of that is Power BI. So we're going to learn things about Power BI that are not necessarily Excel related, but we're going to get a good feel for everything in the future. So bottom line is, which of these two should we choose? And the answer is really both. If you're doing analytics, collaboration says Power BI. Backend data stores, huge amounts of data, very sophisticated visualizations. Power BI is your answer. So at this point, what I see is let's have Power BI as the client and Excel as the data store to get started. This is all leading up to a 4-day class, Microsoft official curriculum, analyzing data with Power BI. This is how you find the entry level and the intermediate level training. And we teach this class quite a bit. I'm going to put an outline in chat for this class, but you may want to make a note. DA 100 is the class. It's a 4-day Microsoft official curriculum class. There is a 35% discount off of this if you use this code when you register for it, PBI 35. This is just for people who are webinar attendees, and that's a good savings. So I want to expose here Okay, this is the class that I would recommend as your next step. This is a 4-day instructor-led DA 100 class. There's several modules. We're going to learn about data analytics, get started with Power BI, learn the different roles that secure data, what tasks a data analyst might do, and just a general look at everything Power BI. Get data, get data, get data. That's how we get started. Get data from various sources. I may build a model that uses data from Excel and Access and SQL Server. We're going to want to optimize that data because this data stores are so huge. Then ETL, clean, transform, and load data. Data transformations, data wrangling, all those buzzwords you've heard. Then we'll look at building a data model, which tables to pull together, how to permission them, how to join them together. What is the concept of a star schema, dimensions and hierarchies? Very important concept for your data. Create relationships, make your joins between your tables. Look at the model interface, create quick measures. This is a way to say, quickly tell me what's the average sales price for a tennis racket. Instant calculation. Creating measures using DAX. We're going to learn a new scripting language called DAX, data analytic expressions. And you'll see that it's very much like what you've done in functions in Excel. So we got a great lab on that. Then we want to multiply our resources, direct query models, go get the data and use it from where it lives. Don't read it in. Why would we want to do that? Then we're going to build the first piece of this puzzle, and that is reports, which are multi-page documents with visualizations. Once we've published those reports, then we'll create a dashboard or more dashboards. And I see a button here, RealTime Dashboards. I want to make a dashboard that is up to date as of the last hour maybe. All right. There is a throwback in time to paginated reports. Back in the day, we used to make hundreds of page printed out with header and footer reports. That technology has been resurfaced in Power BI. Advanced analytics, business model learning lab, and you're going to do a lot of analysis as an end user on the data model. And this comes with our LOD Labs on demand subscription. One of the benefits that you're going to have from taking this class is that you'll have a complete Power BI environment to use and abuse for the next 6 months. So if you want to practice things over and over and over again, or try something before you do it at work, then the Labs on Demand virtual engine is your tool. Workspaces, how do we share data with other users and data sets? So that's a quick look, a quick outline of DA 100. I know we've only got about 5 minutes left. What I want to do is I want to show you the big picture. And if you have any questions about what we've talked about, put it in chat. In chat, you'll see my email address and a button to take the class and apply that discount if you want. So I'm going to share my desktop, and I want to open Power BI Desktop. This is half the story. This is where you do your work. So what's the first thing to do? Get data, get data, get data. And I see there's a hyperlink here, import data from Excel. Okay. I've got same information two different ways. One has no sensitive information in it. One has sensitive information in it. So I'll start off work with the no sensitive information. I am getting data. So because I made a table out of the data in this XLS worksheet, I'll say, show me table one, what's in it? There's a unique ID column, first name, last name, and gender. Nothing tricky about that. So let's load that data into the data model. Okay. So it takes a little while. There's lots and lots and lots of records here. This is from non-sensitive data, Informer data. On the right-hand side of the screen, in the fields pane, I see a table. And in order to make a visualization, I just say, show me first name. Okay. And Power BI puts this in the best form that it understands. Put in the last name, and let's put in gender. So now I have a tabular visualization, and I'm going to make it a little larger so you can see it in the focus mode. Okay, last name, first name. I'm going to drag the gender column over and populate my visualizations just that easily. So I'm going to go back to report. I've got some data here. I want to load some more data. So I'm going to go back to get data again. And I had that sensitive data that's got numbers in it. Okay, I want to Excel. And you can see that I've got a direct connection to Excel with permissions included. My field set over on the right has rewritten, and I've got more tables. I'm interested in the 401k table and basic info. So you see how easy this is. Go get data from multiple places to put into our data model. And in the fields pane on the top right, I've got table one and the columns in it available. And now I've got other tables, basic info and 401k information. So when I have this created in the report view and I have the data properly massaged in the table view and I have my joins, and I may not like this join, I can create my own joins. If I highlight the join line, it tells me that these two tables are joined on the UID. There is intelligence inside that says, show me the data. I understand it to be this data type. It looks at the first 1,000 rows of a column and says, this is a text field, this is a date time field, etc. I'm going to click on publish. Do you want to save your changes? Sure. At this point in time, I am just on-prem doing a lot of heavy duty work, but I want to move this into the cloud. Okay, where do you want to put this? I've got a default workspace here. I could have many workspaces for different divisions, and then I'll share it with individuals. Do you want to open this in Power BI? Do you want to get quick inserts? This data that I have loaded is not heavy duty production data, but it'll give you a feel for what the machine language learning will do. You're saying, here's a whole bunch of stuff and it's all confusing to me. Well, here's a quick insight for that data set you just loaded. How many by gender? I see dark green, much more for male, women and female, less and less. 401k by first name. Zelda has more for gender F. So she's the top leading 401k contributor. What accounts do we have? Who gets the most annual salary? What's the count of basic information? So without knowing any analysis theory, we can use quick insights to find the information that we want. We can create multiple workspaces, and when we have multiple reports, we'll publish them, then create a dashboard. So that's the big picture, and there is so much more to it, and I would highly recommend the DA 100 class. Okay, let's see if we have any questions. I'll unmute yourself if you can. I'm not sure how much they've muted here.
Alrighty, well, if there's no additional questions, some people have asked in the chat for the slides. I will get a recording to you guys of the session by Monday for you, so look out for that. Otherwise, have a great day, and we will see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.